The community of Sheboygan Falls was terrified by the demise of 78-year-old Barbara Olson. She was brutally beaten by the two young boys, one of whom was her great-grandson. Barbara Olson resided in Eau Claire County, Wisconsin, with her husband and 3 children, daughters Joy and Judy and son Stephen. She was blessed with 8 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren as the years passed. After retiring in 1996, Barbara spent most of her time with her family. In 2012, Barbara shifted to West Ridge Drive in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. Judy was residing only a few miles apart, and Barbara frequently spent her mornings visiting her. Yet, it had been 2 days since Barbara last visited Judy on September 17, 2012. Judy tried to reach her via calls and messages, but received no response. On being unable to contact her mom, Judy decided to visit her. When she reached there, she saw a trail of blood following the garage and discovered Barbara lying on the floor, fully covered in blood. Her body was wrapped in a blanket, her skull was shattered, and her facial features were unrecognizable.
Please send an ambulance and the police. My mother is laying in the garage and there's a lot of blood and there's a blanket over her head. There's a lot of blood.
How did the blanket get over her?
I have no idea.
And how old is your mother?
She is 78.
And is she breathing?
I don't know. I can't look. The blanket is over her head and I can't look.
Okay, who's there with you?
Oh, God, the neighbor.
Okay, can the neighbor check if she's breathing?
Oh,
you don't have to go and look. You don't have to go. If your neighbor can just go and check if she's breathing.
Okay, if you would like you to check.
Are you sending somebody?
I'm working on it. I need to know if she's breathing.
As I walked closer to the blanket, I saw her lower leg sticking out. I had called out to her thrice and was looking for my cell phone and didn't have it. Olson's daughter, Judy Offit. Judy said she ran from house to house until she found a neighbor to call 911. Police raced to the scene, but it was clear Olson had been murdered. The instant investigation started. Known for her gentle and peaceful nature, Barbara had no enemies. The authorities scrutinized the interrogations with relatives, neighbors, and local security camera footage. The scrutiny brought them to 2 13-year-old boys, Antonio Barbeau and Nathan Paape, who were present at Barbara's residence at the time of the murder. Antonio was Barbara's great-grandson, and Nathan was Antonio's friend. Both Antonio and Nathan were called for police interrogation. During the interrogation, Nathan became visibly distressed and conveyed his discomfort at speaking openly in his mother's presence.
Write it down.
Can you write it down?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can write it down.
He asked for paper and wrote down a disturbing admission. He killed his grandma, and I was with him. This written confession indicated a direct connection between Antonio and the murder. Antonio was hesitant at first, but as the interrogation progressed, he admitted to the crime. He detailed the sequence of events that resulted in the murder. On the afternoon of September 17, 2012, Nathan's mother picked him and Antonio from the school and drove them down the tree-lined street of West Wind Bluffs. The boys lied to Nathan's mother by claiming they would visit a friend, but they actually went to Barbara's house. Upon reaching there, they found the garage door was open. Hearing noises, Barbara went to check and saw the boys. She invited them inside. However, when Barbara turned away, armed with a hatchet and hammer, Antonio and Nathan attacked her. She fell, tried to cover her head, and pleaded with them to stop. The boys tried to move her body to the car in the garage when she went unconscious. Struggling with the weight, they ultimately left her body in the garage, leaving behind a bloody trail marking. Later, the boys covered a blanket over her head and carefully cleaned all the surfaces inside the house to erase their fingerprints. They took her jewelry, credit card, $155, and various other items. They left in Barbara's car. Eventually, at a Sheboygan bowling alley, they left the keys and some of the stolen goods in the car, intending that someone would take the car and be wrongly accused. They spent the stolen money on pizza at a nearby restaurant. Investigations continued, and the police found the weapons used in the murder and a blood-soaked blanket in the car. The blood-stained clothes and shoes were found in Antonio's locker in his room. A search at Nathan's residence discovered additional blood-stained clothes and Barbara's gold watch, while her purse was retrieved from a nearby drain. The declaration was made that the 2 boys would face charges of first-degree murder. In January 2013, Antonio pleaded not guilty due to mental disorders. Nathan also entered his plea of not guilty. With the trial approaching, Antonio altered his plea to no contest and was found guilty of first-degree intentional murder. This left Nathan as the sole defendant to stand for trial. The trial began on June 17, 2013. Chris Petros, Nathan's defense lawyer, addressed the jury. The lawyer contended that on the afternoon of September 17, 2012, Nathan had returned from school and casually dropped his school bag onto the floor. His close friend, Antonio, appeared at his doorstep. While sitting in Nathan's bedroom, Antonio pulled a hatchet from his bag and planned to murder his great-grandmother. Antonio confessed to hitting Barbara, but argued that Nathan was equally involved in framing a murder plot. According to Antonio, Nathan arrived at Barbara's home holding a hammer, and hit Barbara. On the witness stand, Nathan admitted that he hit Barbara twice. He explained that he acted out of fear that Antonio might attack him next. He also recounted how Antonio had a blank, emotionless expression while continuously hitting Barbara. Doug Kelly, the medical examiner, provided evidence that Barbara had been attacked at least 27 times by sharp and blunt instruments. A silence fell over the courtroom when graphic images of Barbara's body were displayed. The severe injuries to her head, face, arms, and hands were so disturbing that even experienced officers had to turn their eyes. During the trial, Antonio's defense attorney presented the argument that a car accident in 2009 had resulted in Antonio suffering from an unspecified cognitive disorder, which may have influenced his decision-making in committing the crime. Nonetheless, this condition could not be held as a justification for such actions. The district attorney, Joe DeCesso, concurred, stating that this type of crime cannot go unanswered and be explained away by brain trauma.
They really don't care about rehabilitation. They just want to put them away so they can't, they understand the seriousness of the crime.
Antonio's grandmother, Barb's daughter, made a plea for mercy. She contended that Barbara would want Antonio not to receive a strict punishment and could have a chance to be a better person. While Antonio's defense and relatives sought to justify his actions with the argument of brain trauma, Nathan's legal team and family claimed that Nathan should not be held fully responsible as he did all this in fear. Judge Timothy Van Ackerson disagreed with both defenses, describing the crime as the worst case he had seen in his 24 years of service. After a few hours of deliberation, the jury found Nathan guilty of being a companion to first-degree intentional murder, resulting in a life imprisonment of 31 years. Antonio had previously been convicted of first-degree intentional murder and received a life sentence with a minimum of 35 years.